Just as Zhou Wen was about to drip his blood to revive and continue fighting, he suddenly heard a voice coming from afar. The sound became clearer as though someone was walking over. "Brother, is that thing really inside Tiger Cage Pass?" A woman's voice sounded. Although it wasn't loud and was rather far away, Zhou Wen could still hear it clearly with Truth Listener's ability. "The most likely place is Tiger Cage Pass." A man's voice rang out. "If that thing is really inside Tiger Cage Pass, with our abilities, we won't be able to rush in at all. I'm afraid we've made a wasted trip," the woman added. "Not necessarily," the man said with a laugh. "The one in Tiger Cage Pass is not the usual person at the epic stage. I'm afraid we won't even be able to catch an arrow from him, so how can we rush in?" The woman said. "Blindly charging in will definitely not work. However, I do know of a method that can allow us to enter." The man paused before continuing. "There are 3 mutated demonized generals like Fist, Paper and Blade in Tiger Cage Pass. If we can gather all 3 demonized general skills, we can use them to get past that arrow. When the time comes, as long as we can get close enough to Tiger Cage Pass, we can enter it through that secret tunnel. There aren't many mutated demonized generals to begin with. It's easier said than done to have one drop with all 3 skills," said the woman. "Let's take it slow. After all, we still have to stay at Sunset College for 2 years. If we are lucky, we might be able to gather the 3 primordial energy skills," the man said. Zhou Wen was lying in the broken-down tank and heard their conversation clearly. The duo talked as they walked and soon they had gone some distance without discovering Zhou Wen. "Those 2 must be Wu Jun and Wu Nan who were in the top 10, right? They actually know so much about Tiger Cage Pass and some secret tunnel. What's the thing they were talking about?" Zhou Wen could easily recognize them with Truth Listener's ability. However, the siblings' behavior was somewhat odd. However, none of this had anything to do with Zhou Wen. He continued to lay in the tank and grind away. He still wanted to enter the golden flying ant's nest to drink a few mouthfuls of the ant honey. He had only taken a sip due to his lack of preparation the last time. Next time he felt that he would be able to fill his stomach. However, through a great ordeal, when Zhou Wen finally arrived in front of the nest at the highest point, he saw a golden beam flash before he could enter. The golden flying ant charged out of the nest and killed the blood-colored avatar outside without giving him a chance to enter. Zhou Wen refused to give up and tried again, but the result was the same. Without even having the chance to enter the nest, he was killed by the golden flying ant. How can this be? Logically speaking, the game's program should be fixed. The first time I went there, the golden flying ant was in the nest. It only took action after I rushed in. Why did it come out before the blood-colored avatar entered the nest during the second and third time? Zhou Wen felt depressed. Drinking the golden ant honey seemed hopeless, so all Zhou Wen could do was grind the other dungeons. While grinding, Zhou Wen also headed to Myriad Buddha Cave to see if there were any 3-eyed golden warriors. There were 3-eyed golden warriors, but they spawned at different locations every time, which meant that it took Zhou Wen some time to find them. The mutated demonized general led the way on a horse, blasting through the horde of golden warriors. This made Zhou Wen's progress speed much faster. After finding a 3-eyed golden warrior, the mutated demonized general clashed head-on with it but failed to gain much of an advantage. However, it wasn't placed at a disadvantage either. The clash between the Golden Palm and Astral Fist was like a collision between Mars and Earth. The air blasts that produced were enough to send the golden warriors by the side flying. Although the 3-eyed golden warrior was powerful, its speed and means of attack were still inferior to the mutated demonized general. Zhou Wen used Astral Suction Palm to help the mutated demonized general to kill the 3-eyed golden warrior, which ended up dropping an 18-valued constitution crystal, raising Zhou Wen's constitution to 18 points. Time passed as Zhou Wen grinded away, living a very regular lifestyle. He alternated between Tiger Cage Pass and Lotus Flower Cave on a daily basis. Wang Fei was greatly gratified when she learned how hardworking Zhou Wen was. However, unbeknownst to her, Zhou Wen only found a place to game after entering the dimensional zones. Who's that boy? Why haven't I seen him before? He's so handsome. A few girls were walking in the school when they suddenly saw a boy walking over. After taking a closer look at his face, their eyes lit up. Really? Our school actually has such a handsome guy. Why didn't we notice him in the past? The girls' eyes were almost fixed on him. In their eyes, that boy was flawless from head to toe. His entire being seemed to be glowing. When the boy saw them looking at him, he smiled at them. The girls' hearts pounded wildly and they lowered their heads shyly, not daring to look at him again. By the time they lifted their heads again, the boy had already disappeared. Damn it, I should have asked for his number just now. A girl stamped her feet in regret. The door isn't locked. Come in. Wei Ji was clearing some student council work when he suddenly heard a knock on the door. The door was pushed open, but Wei Ji felt that something was amiss. It was as if the person was not a member of the student council, so he looked up. Upon seeing this, Wei Ji felt a sense of animosity. The boy in front of him was his idea of the perfect man. He was elegant, mature, reliable, and had the aura of a nobleman. No one could ignore his existence with him merely standing there. It was as though he was the center of the world. With just a glance, Wei Ji had already added the boy to the list of his opponents. The boy reached out his hand and, in a friendly manner, said, "Hello, I'm John." "So it's John. I'm the student council president of Sunset College, Wei Ji. I've already received notice from the school that I'll be responsible for your daily life while you're studying here. Wei Ji stood up and reached out to shake John's hand as their gaze met. John's gaze was as pure as a silent sea without any ripples. When their hands held each other, Wei Ji smiled as he secretly exerted strength in his palm. He wanted to test John's strength. Wei Ji had long heard that John had the title of saint in the West District. He was a famous genius in the West District. Wei Ji didn't think that he would be any worse than John, but after his hand gradually tightened, his expression changed. No matter how much Wei Ji exerted his strength, nothing happened to John's palm. It remained warm and firm, as though strength couldn't affect it at all. Even his expression was as gentle as ever. Wei Ji felt that John was like an unfathomable ocean. No one knew how terrifying it was beneath the calm. Article 142 of 1597. Chapter 142 St. John. John, welcome to Sunset College for your studies. I'll take you to the dormitory first. Wei Ji retracted his hand as his expression was a mixture of emotions. Then I'll have to trouble you, John said with a smile. I heard that Sunset College produced a genius this year. A freshman who has yet to advance to the legendary stage has managed to enter the top 10 of the comprehensive test. Wei Ji was a shrewd person. Upon hearing John's words, he immediately had a guess. Could it be that this John has a grudge with Zhou Wen? Although he had such thoughts in mind, Wei Ji said, I do indeed have such a junior. His talent and character are excellent. I heard his name is Zhou Wen. John asked again. That's right. Do you know him? Wei Ji asked. I don't know him. I heard that Sunset College has produced such a genius, so I'm looking forward to it. If there's a chance, I hope I can spar with him. John made his words very clear. This only affirmed Wei Ji's conjecture, but he avoided answering. He only smiled and said, I'll take you to the dormitory first. The school will arrange everything else. John nodded with a calm expression. He didn't say anything further and instead chatted with Wei Ji about the glorious history and interesting news of Sunset College. News of John coming to Sunset College quickly spread. Even if the school didn't promote him, a tall, handsome, and outstanding student like John would easily attract attention once he appeared on campus. It's as the rumors say, John is indeed a genius with both looks and strength. The reputation of a saint is true. What do you mean, as the rumors say? You haven't seen his strength at all, have you? Maybe he's just a pretty boy. Generally, men who are good-looking can't be too weak, said a girl. The students of Sunset College were discussing the genius student from the West District, especially the Cape family that had born one of the 6 heroes. This gave him an even more mysterious halo. Many of the experts in the school hoped to battle John, but this was not something they could sort for themselves. They had to follow the arrangements of the school's leaders. Sunset College had carefully selected a list of students to interact with John. There were 5 people, including Huang Ji, Wei Ji, Wei Haifeng, Wang Lu, and Feng Qian. In consideration of Zhou Wen's relationship with Liz, he wasn't put on the list. When John saw the name list, he didn't say anything. The corners of his mouth curled up and he revealed a rare smile. Zhou Wen had also heard the news of John's arrival, but he didn't take it to heart. With his present strength and his legendary companion beasts that possessed astonishing combat strength, it could be said that he wasn't afraid of any cultivator of the same level. If John really wanted to fight him, he wouldn't back down. He continued persisting in his old ways by grinding daily. He obtained quite a number of dimensional crystals and companion beasts, and his attributes increased significantly. Apart from his speed, the other attributes had increased to 18 points and his speed was at 17 points. However, he didn't obtain any better excellent grade companion beasts. Most of them were used as food to feed Truth Listener and Banana Fairy. He attempted to fuse a small number of them, but all of them failed. The success rate of the fusion was frighteningly low. Providing plenty of food was clearly beneficial. After consuming a copious number of legendary companion eggs, Banana Fairy finally began to evolve. Banana Fairy didn't undergo much of a change when she reached the legendary stage. Her body was still small and petite, and she didn't grow up at all. Instead, the banana leaf she was sitting on had enlarged but was merely the size of a palm. Banana Fairy, legendary, evolvable. Life state, Great Yin Spirit Root. Strength, 21. Speed, 21. Constitution, 21. Primordial Energy, 21. Talent skill, Grand Yin Wind. Companion form, Fan. Apart from possessing a life providence, her attributes had grown to the same level as Truth Listeners. There were no changes in other aspects, with her only skill being Grand Yin Wind. The Great Yin Spirit Root seemed to have a certain augmentation effect on the Grand Yin Wind. Zhou Wen tested the power of the Grand Yin Wind in-game, and with a gentle flap, he sent several black-winged flying ants flying tens of feet away. Furthermore, the wind caused their bodies to be covered in frost, to the point of nearly being frozen into ice sculptures and losing all their combat strength. They were so stiff that they curled into a ball and trembled. What a potent Grand Yin Wind. Unfortunately, I can only use it once. Zhou Wen realized that the Grand Yin Wind was completely uncontrollable. If he used it once, it would absorb all his primordial energy at once without leaving him a single drop. After advancing to the legendary stage, Truth Listener and the Banana Fairy became restless. Zhou Wen often sensed their thoughts, hoping that he could release them. When there was no one around, Zhou Wen would release them to allow them to take a breather. Truth Listener was rather well behaved. He crouched beside Zhou Wen and pricked up his 4 ears to listen to him. It was unknown what he was listening to. However, Banana Fairy wasn't that well behaved. She flew around like a fly on the banana leaf, her mouth smacking away, saying something completely indecipherable. Thankfully, Zhou Wen didn't have any other advantages but being sufficiently focused. No matter how noisy the tiny banana fairy was beside him, he didn't seem to hear her. He continued gaming without being affected. Wang Fei was originally worried that John would cause trouble for Zhou Wen, but John didn't seem to have any objections to the list of people. Nor did he mention Zhou Wen, as though he had no idea that Zhou Wen existed. In just 3 or 4 days after arriving at Sunset College, John received unanimous praise from the students, especially the female students. They almost thought John was their Prince Charming. During his sparring, John battled Wei Ji to a tie with his sword techniques. He tied with Wei Haifeng with his melee combat skills. His saber techniques were comparable to Feng Kaiyuan's, and his skills of alacrity were no weaker than Wang Le's. Apart from not really fighting Huang Ji, John and the other 4 top students of Sunset College were tied. Although they didn't win, they didn't lose either. However, many students believed that John was stronger because he had never used Holy Light Judgment, the primordial energy skill he used to obtain the title of Saint. A primordial energy skill like the Holy Light Judgment was not something that could be learned with a dimensional crystal. Before that, one had to possess a Covenant Royale physique of the Cape family, one of the 6 heroes, to absorb the primordial energy skill crystal needed to master the terrifying primordial energy skill like Holy Light Judgment. In just a few days, John became synonymous with the words humility, elegance, nobility, and gentlemanly. Even Wei Ji, who was popular with female students, was overshadowed by John. Article 143 of 1597. Zhou Wen, be careful. That John is terrifying, Li Xuan said to Zhou Wen with a heavy expression when he arrived at his dorm one night. What's wrong? Zhou Wen looked at Li Xuan in puzzlement. Don't you find it strange? He definitely knows about you and Liz, but he hasn't mentioned it in the past 4 days in school. Don't you think this person is too sinister? Li Xuan said. Isn't it better if he doesn't mention it? Zhou Wen asked. Not mentioning it doesn't mean he won't cause trouble for you. Anyway, I think there's something fishy. You have to be careful and don't fall into his trap. By the way, it's best you don't agree to spar with him. Do you know what Wei Ji said about him? Li Xuan said. I don't, Zhou Wen said with a shake of his head. Unfathomable, Li Xuan said before continuing, although Wei Ji's character isn't great, he's still quite powerful. If even someone like him views John as unfathomable, Saint mean that John's strength is really terrifying. Unless necessary, it's best not to fight him. Alright, I'll remember that. Zhou Wen nodded in agreement. As long as John didn't make trouble for him, he didn't plan on fighting him. When it comes to fighting, how can it be more fun than killing monsters in games? It's not like fighting people can drop equipment or pets, Zhou Wen thought. After sending Li Xuan off, Zhou Wen continued gaming while lying in bed. When Zhou Wen entered Myriad Buddha Cave again, he killed another 3-eyed golden warrior and actually had a companion egg drop. My 3-eyed golden warrior companion egg has finally returned. Zhou Wen was delighted as he hurriedly checked its attributes. 3-eyed golden warrior, legendary. Life state, golden body. Strength, 18. Speed, 14. Constitution, 18. Primordial energy, 17. Talent skill, invulnerable golden body, golden palm, golden fiend tamer fist. Companion form, golden silk soft armor. This 3-eyed golden warrior was actually a rare companion beast with 3 skills. Furthermore, its attributes were even better than Li Xuan's. It was basically maxed out. The 3-eyed golden warrior's speed wasn't fast to begin with, so 14 points was its limit. Li Xuan's was only at 13, even slower than Zhou Wen's. Its strength and primordial energy were slightly lower than Zhou Wen's, with only constitution being equal. Although its attributes were inferior to his demonized general, its golden body life providence made it hardier than the demonized general. It was an excellent grade meat shield pet. With the 3-eyed golden warrior tanking any attacks up ahead, it gave Zhou Wen much more space to maneuver. As for the golden fiend tamer fist, it seemed to be weaker than golden palm, but something was better than nothing. The Xuanwen Club was finally officially established. In order to celebrate the birth of the club, Li Xuan organized his first club activity and gathered all the members together. He planned on having a training event at a dimensional zone. Although Gu Dian was only a member in name, Li Xuan still sent him a message, hoping that he might participate. Zhou Wen and Li Xuan never expected him to join them, but to their surprise, Gu Dian actually came. Are you going to Dragon Gate Grotto's ancient Yang Cave? Asked Gu Dian. That's right. Shall we go together? Li Xuan said with a smile. All right. Gu Dian nodded slightly before standing to the side without speaking to anyone. Zhou Wen and Li Xuan had roughly understood his personality, so they didn't mind. After getting Fang Ruoxi and Tian Xingdong, the 5 of them set off towards ancient Yang Cave at Dragon Gate Grotto. Ancient Yang Cave was considered one of the more famous caves in Dragon Gate Grotto. The famous ancient tablets from the Wei Dynasty Dragon Gate 20 pieces consisted of 20 items. And 19 of them were in the ancient Yang Cave. After it became a dimensional zone, the Dragon Gate 19 pieces also underwent changes, giving birth to a legendary creature, the Mounted Tablet Beast. Li Xuan's organization of the club activity was to hunt the Mounted Tablet Beast together. Mounted Tablet Beasts looked extremely odd. It was a stone turtle that carried a stone tablet on its back. It moved very slowly, but its body was extremely hard. It was like a golden warrior, a legendary creature that was extremely difficult to kill. The only difference was that no one liked to kill golden warriors. However, mounted tablet beasts were popular for hunting because although it was difficult to kill, they dropped excellent primordial energy skills. Furthermore, the drop rate was rather high. According to the differences in the words written on the tablet, there were a total of 19 types. Every mounted tablet beast had a special primordial energy skill. There were 19 types that could drop and each one had their own uses and was deeply loved by the students. As too many students hunted mounted tablet beasts, the school had no choice but to limit entry into the ancient Yang Cave. They had to have a permit to enter freely. After Li Xuan used some connections, he obtained the pass to ancient Yang Cave and organized this event. There were too many small dungeons in Dragon Gate Grotto. Although Zhou Wen knew of the existence of ancient Yang Cave, he had never been to it in-game. Originally he was not interested in the cave, but he still had to participate in the club's events. Hence, he went along with Li Xuan and company. The Buddha statues and Buddhist shrines in the ancient Yang Cave were dazzling. Just as they entered, they saw a moving stone pillar. On careful look, it was a giant turtle carrying a stone tablet crawling on the ground. Let me repeat again. When killing the mounted tablet beast, make sure not to touch the Buddha statues or the Buddhist shrines. Otherwise, no one can save you if something bad happens, Li Xuan exhorted again. Brother Li, don't worry. We know the rules. We guarantee that we won't break them, Tian Shengdong said as he patted his chest. That's good. After all, there's not much danger in ancient Yang Cave. The mounted tablet beast crawls very slowly. As long as you don't court death, it probably won't be able to harm you. Everyone split up and do whatever you need to do. You can all find mounted tablet beasts for yourselves. Li Xuan immediately began as he charged towards the mounted tablet beast. Gu Dian and Fang Ruoxi went in different directions to search for the mounted tablet beasts hidden in the ancient Yang Cave. However, Zhou Wen stood rooted to the ground as he watched Li Xuan attack the mounted tablet beast. At the same time, he looked at the stone tablet text on the back of the mounted tablet beast. The words on the tablet danced and moved in a strange way. The strokes were full, straight, and filled with spirituality. It had an unbound beauty. Zhou Wen didn't know calligraphy, but when he saw the words on the tablet, he thought of the mysterious stone monuments he had seen. The stone tablet on the back of the mounted tablet beast couldn't match the mysterious stone monuments Zhou Wen had seen. Nor did it have any mysterious power lingering on. It was likely something ordinary. However, after reading through the information regarding ancient Yang Cave, Zhou Wen's heart stirred. The species of the mounted tablet beast corresponds to the Dragon Gate 19 pieces. Does that mean that at the last piece of the Dragon Gate 20 pieces there's a corresponding dimensional creature and primordial energy skill? But why haven't I heard of any other mounted tablet beasts outside the ancient Yang Cave? Zhou Wen checked the information regarding the Dragon Gate 20 pieces and discovered that 19 of them were in ancient Yang Cave. Only one piece was located outside Old Dragon Cave at Sixian Kiln. Upon seeing this, Zhou Wen couldn't help but recall something. Wang Lu had previously mentioned that one could hear a dragon's roar near Old Dragon Cave and that there was a treasure halo that appeared at night. Apparently, it was close to Sixian Kiln. Article 144 of 1597. It killed Wei Ji to meet John again, but he had no choice but to take him around to experience campus life at Sunset College. In the past, Wei Ji had been the center of attention wherever he went. He had been the target of all the girls' passionate gazes. But with John by his side, Wei Ji felt as if his brilliance had been completely overshadowed. He felt it now as they were touring the campus. There was a large group of girls following them, however, the girls who used to only have eyes for him were now staring unblinkingly at John. Their eyes were almost in the shapes of hearts. Is this Sunset College's Rising Sun Monument? John stood in front of a monument made of white jade and stared at the rows of names on it. That's right. This is the Rising Sun Monument. The names of the top 10 students of each year's comprehensive test are engraved on it as a way to inspire future students. If they make it onto the rankings several times, there will be a star-shaped mark beside their names. The number of stars tells you how many times the student has had their name appear on the Rising Sun Monument while schooling, said Wei Ji proudly. He had been on the rankings ever since he was in his sophomore year. Together with the current year, he had already been on the rankings twice. He was bound to appear on the rankings next year in his final year. Only a small group of elites in Sunset College attained such rankings for 3 consecutive years. This was an illustrious result that one could be proud of. President Wei's cultivation is superb and his sword skills are peerless. I guess you definitely make it onto the rankings? John asked with a smile. I was lucky enough to get on the rankings twice. Wei Ji pointed at his name on the monument. Hui Haifeng, Feng Qian and Wang Lu are both highly talented, so they should be on this list, right? John asked again. Indeed. They were in the top 10 in the comprehensive test this year. Wei Ji pointed them out one by one, but he could already feel that something was amiss. That's weird. John looked at the sunrise monument and suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Wei Ji had already realized something as he shot a look at John. However, he didn't follow up on the topic as if he hadn't heard John's words of surprise. Although Wei Ji didn't respond, one of the girls following them asked, "What's so strange, John?" Wei Ji wanted nothing more than to give the girl a slap, thinking that this woman was truly stupid. John pointed at the name on the monument and said, "President Wei, you and the others are all elite talents being able to advance to the legendary stage before reaching 20. It's not surprising that you could make the rankings. However, on this entire Rising Sun monument, other than one person, all of them are at the legendary stage. Why is this person's name on it despite being only at the mortal stage? The person you're talking about is Zhou Wen, right? Although he is only at the mortal stage, his strength is indeed astonishing. He obtained the stunning results of 3 perfect scores and 1 short of perfect at 9 during the comprehensive test. He's indeed a genius, so it's not surprising that he made the rankings," the girl from before added. John pulled up the corners of his mouth and looked at Zhou Wen's name on the monument. I never expected such a genius to exist in this world. To be able to enter the top 10 of Sunset College's comprehensive test at the mortal stage makes him a truly rare sight. Since I'm here at Sunset College, I have to see him for myself. Otherwise, wouldn't this be a longing regret? Wei Ji's expression changed slightly before it immediately reverted to its original state. He looked at John and said, "Zhou Wen is indeed a genius. However, he's still at the mortal stage. It's probably not appropriate for you to spar with him, right?" Although Wei Ji didn't have a good impression of Zhou Wen as the student council president of Sunset College, he still stood in the position of upholding the school's reputation. John said indifferently, "President Wei, that's not right. There were many experts at Sunset College's comprehensive test. Even the top 23 are probably legendary experts. For a mortal stage to be able to defeat so many legendary experts and for you, President Wei, Feng Qian and company, to be similarly ranked in the top 10, isn't it odd that you're now telling me that he doesn't have the ability to fight someone at the legendary stage? Could it be that Zhou Wen's results weren't obtained by his strength alone? If that's the case, I suggest that his name be promptly removed from the Rising Sun monument, lest it mars the reputation of Sunset College. Those not in the know might even come to the impression that students of Sunset College only know how to cheat." Wei Ji's expression changed as he replied firmly, "Zhou Wen's results are real. Students from Sunset College never cheat. In that case, I would like to see how this mortal stage genius managed to enter the top 10 of the comprehensive test," John said with a smile. Zhou Wen was gaming on his bed when he suddenly heard his phone ring. When he saw that it was a call from Li Xuan, he chose to answer. "Old Zhou, bad news. That bastard John is too sinister." Li Xuan's resentful voice sounded. "Calm down. What happened? Tell me slowly." Zhou Wen wasn't flustered at all. "That bastard is standing in front of the Rising Sun monument." Li Xuan recounted what had happened and continued anxiously, "This matter has blown up quite a bit. The school doesn't have a way out, so this matter probably won't be easy to settle." "Got it." When Zhou Wen heard the doorbell ring, he said to Li Xuan, "Someone's pressing the doorbell. It might be Ms. Wang Fei. I'll talk to you later." "What do you plan on doing?" Li Xuan asked again. "What else can I do if others come knocking at my door?" Zhou Wen hung up after saying that. Opening the door, it was indeed Wang Fei. She looked at Zhou Wen and sighed. "Zhou Wen." Just as she said that, Zhou Wen cut her off. "Ms. Wang, I can fight. Take me there." Wang Fei was stunned. Seeing Zhou Wen's indifferent expression, as though he had already made a decision, she still asked, "Have you decided?" "Yes, don't worry. Even if I can't win, I definitely won't embarrass the school," Zhou Wen said. "Just do your best." Wang Fei didn't believe that Zhou Wen could defeat John. If possible, she would rather Zhou Wen not fight. However, the matter had blown up so much that it might even affect the reputation of Sunset College. Regardless of whether it was victory or defeat, Zhou Wen needed to step forward to battle John. The school held no hopes of Zhou Wen defeating John. They only hoped that he wouldn't lose too terribly so that they could have a chance of spinning it in a better light. Wang Fei didn't wish for Zhou Wen to fight, afraid that the positive attitude he had recently established would crumble from the beating. John's family background was better than in Jing's. His achievements were not much worse than in Jing's, and might even be better. Back then, Zhou Wen didn't even manage to withstand a single blow from Jing. This time, the outcome wasn't optimistic either. Article 145 of 1597. Since you are doubting the standards of our Sunset College students, I'll fight you. A cold voice was heard in front of the Rising Sun monument. Everyone turned their heads and saw the deadpan Jing approach John. John said with a smile, "Missin, I believe you are mistaken. I'm not doubting Sunset College's teaching ability or strength of its students. I'm very respectful to students like President Wei, Hui Haifeng, Feng Qian, Wang Lu, and you, Miss In. All of you are truly capable students. As for Zhou Wen, I was originally very respectful to him. I wanted to get to know this rare genius, but your attitude has left me somewhat puzzled. This matter had nothing to do with me to begin with, but since I'm an exchange student here at Sunset College, I'm considered part of it during this period of time. I don't wish for the college's reputation to be sullied. You don't dare to fight me? She stared at John quietly. John continued with a smile. Missin, are you upholding Zhou Wen's honor or Sunset College's? Could it be that this Zhou Wen is truly lacking in strength and cheated to obtain a spot that should have belonged to another student? John's doubts caused the students of Sunset College who were watching to whisper amongst themselves. Clearly, everyone became suspicious. Previously, when Zhou Wen obtained the spot, there were already people who suspected him. However, there was no evidence back then, so no one mentioned it. Now that John mentioned it, the previous suspicions were magnified. There's absolutely no such thing. Our Sunset College categorically forbids cheating. Once they are discovered, they are immediately expelled, an official from the college hurriedly explained. However, no matter what he said, he was unable to dispel the suspicions of those students. Unless Zhou Wen comes out to fight me to prove to everyone that he isn't any worse than the other students in the top 10, it's hardly convincing, John said with a smile. How shall it be proven? By defeating you. And Jing was about to say something when she suddenly heard a voice. Everyone turned their heads and saw Zhou Wen walk over and stand in front of the Rising Sun Monument. It might be a little too harsh on you to talk about defeating me. Weapons or empty-handed, strength, speed, and endurance, or even if it's a battle of companion beasts, you can choose any one type. As long as you can last 10 minutes without being defeated, it's your win. John was forcing Zhou Wen to have no way out. That bastard John is so sinister, Li Xuan cursed under his breath. Now he finally understood why John hadn't directly challenged Zhou Wen when he first came to the college. His intentions were extremely sinister. If Zhou Wen were to fight John as one of the students who interacted with him in the beginning, he could just admit defeat if he wasn't his match. But now that things had reached this stage, if Zhou Wen couldn't hold on for more than 10 minutes, not only would Zhou Wen lose face but even Sunset College's reputation would be tarnished. Therefore, Zhou Wen had to persist for 10 minutes regardless. And in these 10 minutes, John could do whatever he wanted. John definitely wouldn't dare kill Zhou Wen at Sunset College, but he could teach him a lesson that he would never forget. And Jing naturally saw through John's intentions and said to Zhou Wen, you don't need to prove anything to others. Since you are so lacking in confidence, how about this? I won't do a thing. As long as you can last 10 minutes without being defeated in front of one of my companion beasts, I'll count it as you winning. How can a top 10 student of Sunset College's comprehensive test not be able to complete such a simple matter? John looked at Zhou Wen mockingly. 10 minutes. Zhou Wen asked John. That's right. Just 10 minutes. John couldn't help but smile when he saw Zhou Wen about to agree. 10 minutes is too long. Zhou Wen shook his head. Oh, then how long do you think you can last? John looked at Zhou Wen with piqued interest. It was beyond his expectations that Zhou Wen was actually showing signs of weakness in front of so many people. 1 minute. Zhou Wen thought seriously before giving a number. With Zhou Wen's words, the surrounding Sunset College students felt ashamed. After all, Zhou Wen was in the top 10 of the comprehensive test, so for him to admit that he could only last a minute in front of John's companion beast was a disgrace to Sunset College. A minute is indeed short, but since you have spoken, let's do it, John said with a smile that had no mirth in it. John thought to himself, even if it's only a minute, I can still cripple you. How dare you treat my sister that way? I will definitely settle this score with you. There were special combat grounds in the school. Under the guidance of the college staff, the two of them arrived at the venue. This matter had long spread across Sunset College. Many students had come to watch, but there were very few counselors. Apart from Wang Fei and a few other counselors and staff who maintained order at the scene, there was basically no sight of the college's upper management. The college's upper management could roughly guess how Zhou Wen had entered the top 10. However, they didn't hold it against him because of the Yin family. From their point of view, Zhou Wen was bound to lose to John in combat, so no one wanted to embarrass themselves here. Will Zhou Wen be alright? Fang Ruoxi asked worriedly. Old Zhou will definitely be fine if it's just a minute, but Li Xuan said. But what? Fang Ruoxi asked. I have a nagging feeling that things aren't that simple. Old Zhao's personality seems mild and uncompetitive, but he's a very proud person deep down. He shouldn't, Li Xuan didn't continue. When Li Xuan saw Fang Qian sitting by the side, he asked, Little Feng, you fought with John. What are your thoughts? John is very strong, a minute will be very difficult, Fang Qian said. Li Xuan, Fang Ruoxi, and Tian Shengdong were alarmed. Tian Shengdong said in disbelief, is John so strong that Zhou Wen won't even last a minute? Fang Qian said calmly, it's indeed difficult to defeat John in a minute, but coach might have his own ideas. Tian Shengdong's and Li Xuan's mouths widened so much that an egg could be stuffed into them. They looked at Fang Qian like he was an alien. Did I hear wrongly just now? Are you saying that Zhou Wen wants to defeat John in a minute? Is that what Zhou Wen meant by a minute? Tian Shengdong felt his mind become a mess. However, Li Xuan slapped his thigh. I knew it. How could old Zhou be so cowardly? That's right, that must be the case. As the few of them spoke, John had already summoned his companion beast. Many of the onlookers shouted its name when they saw it. Article 146 of 1597. Knight of the Round Table. Li Xuan cried out softly when he saw John summon his companion beast. Among the many dimensional zones in the West District, Camelot was undoubtedly one of the most famous. There was only one dimensional creature in Camelot, the legendary Knights of the Round Table. They were rare in number, and each one of them had different abilities. To be able to obtain a Knight of the Round Table companion beast was like a dream to legendary cultivators in the West District. In the West District, a Knight of the Round Table companion beast was synonymous with being invincible at the legendary stage. It was not only because they were powerful, but also because of another important reason. Other than a Knight of the Round Table's own abilities, they were also one of the few companion beasts who could be augmented by their owner's strength. The more powerful the person with a Knight of the Round Table was, the more it boosted the knight. This made him almost invincible at the legendary stage. There was a very famous West District expert who had used Galahad of the Knights of the Round Table to be unparalleled in companion beast combat in the West District. John's knight was riding a black horse carrying a steel spear that made him look extremely majestic. He wore a medal signifying his status as a Knight of the Round Table. That's Holy Spear Knight of the Knights of the Round Table. Legend has it that he corresponds to the Round Table Knight, Lamorak. He's one of the 3 most powerful Round Table Knights. His usage of spears is nearly invincible. He once defeated 30 knights single-handedly and is an extremely powerful legendary companion beast. With John's augmentation of the Round Table Knight, it wouldn't be too much to say that he's one of the strongest companion beasts at the legendary stage. Wang Lu identified the Round Table Knight's origins. Is Zhou Wen alright? Li Xuan began to worry. It wouldn't be easy for Zhou Wen to defeat such a powerful companion beast in a minute. Wang Fei was also astonished when she saw the Holy Spear Knight. There were very few dimensional creatures in Camelot, so the number of companion beasts produced was limited. Every Round Table Knight's owner was very famous, so it was unexpected for John to have one. However, Round Table Knights were usually one of a kind. She had never heard of 2 Round Table Knights appearing at the same time. According to what she knew, the Holy Spear Knight originally belonged to an epic expert in the West District, but now, it was appearing with John. Although Sunset College also produced knight-type companion beasts in the dimensional zones, they were naturally inferior to the world-renowned Knights of the Round Table. John looked at Zhou Wen and said, "This is my companion beast Holy Spear Knight. He only has one active primordial energy skill, Spear of the Holy Steed, but the might of this spear is nearly invincible amongst its peers. However, since you are one of the top 10 students at Sunset College, it shouldn't be difficult for you to last a minute under his spear, right? Are you ready?" John narrowed his eyes and asked Zhou Wen. "I'll be done soon." Zhou Wen had planned on using the banana fan to just blow away John's companion beast, but after seeing the Holy Spear Knight, he dispelled the thought. As he spoke, Zhou Wen extended his hand and beckoned. A crimson beam of light flew out, materializing in front of him to form a red armored knight on a red horse. It was a mighty knight that resembled a devil. A demonized general. No. It's not an ordinary demonized general. It's a word engraved demonized general. Why is the word engraved on its helmet a little odd? The students from Sunset College immediately recognized the mutated demonized general and began stirring. Even Wang Fei was somewhat surprised. Zhou Wen actually obtained a word engraved demonized general as a companion beast. Isn't his luck too good? How many days has it been since he obtained the Tiger Cage Pass's entry pass? He actually managed to have a mutated demonized general's companion egg drop. Furthermore, that word engraved demonized general is a little odd. Why isn't the helmet engraved with blade, paper, fist but demon? Fuck, old Zhou is amazing. He managed to obtain a mutated demonized general's companion egg without anyone knowing. However, can it'll beat a Holy Spear Knight? Li Xuan said. I don't know. In theory, Holy Spear Knight should be stronger. After all, he can be augmented by his owner's power. In contrast, the mutated demonized general doesn't have this ability. He can only rely on himself, said Wang Lu in thought. I'm ready now, Zhou Wen said. A knight versus a knight. That's interesting. I'll show you what a real knight is. John proudly raised his finger and gently swiped it. The time starts now. As though he had received an emperor's order, the Holy Spear Knight lifted up his spear and launched an attack at Zhou Wen and the mutated demonized general. As the charge increased in speed, a terrifying spear beam emitted from the Holy Spear Knight's spear. The spear beam pierced through the air and formed a swirl that was visible to the naked eye. It was like a hurricane that effused a terrifying holy luster that charged at the mutated demonized general. Zhou Wen didn't make any moves as the mutated demonized general charged out as well. The red armored spear was like a red flame. The white and red horses charged forward at the same time, like 2 hurricanes sweeping through the battlefield, hitting each other in an instant. Bam! The red spear clashed with the holy spear. The terrifying power tore through the air, creating a piercing explosion. This strike was actually a tie. John couldn't help but frown slightly as he couldn't accept the outcome. The Holy Spear Knight failed to gain the upper hand despite being augmented by his powers. It left him somewhat astonished by the power of the mutated demonized general. The spectating students were also excited. The mutated demonized general was actually on par with the famous Knight of the Round Table. It made them yearn for one and wished that they could head over to Tiger Cage Pass to have a mutated demonized general's companion egg drop. However, just as everyone thought that the clash had ended, the mutated demonized general's other hand clenched into a fist and bombarded the Holy Spear Knight. Bam! Under everyone's shocked gaze, the Holy Spear Knight's body was sent flying from the horse's back. He flew more than 10 meters before landing on the ground. The knight lost grip of his spear as it fell far away. The heavy armor on his chest also cracked while his helmet rolled to the side. Before the Holy Spear Knight could stand up again, the mutated demonized general on the horse that resembled a devil struck out with another palm. A blood-red saber beam slashed through the air, chopping off the Holy Spear Knight's head. Everything happened in the blink of an eye, so fast that everyone stared in shock. Even John himself had yet to react. His Holy Spear Knight had been killed the moment the face-off began. 1 minute. From the looks of it, it's still too long. Zhou Wen looked at the Holy Spear Knight's corpse and spoke without expression. Article 147 of 1597. Chapter 147 Rebellious Knight. What's that? Was I seeing things? That mutated demonized general seems to have used 2 primordial energy skills of fist and blade at the same time, am I right? Is there such a demonized general? A student from Sunset College stared at the scene with widened eyes. Haha, what Knight of the Round Table? He's far inferior to our demonized general. 10 minutes was indeed too long. A minute was too long as well. What Zhou Wen said was right. Haha. I knew it. How could someone from Sunset College cheat? Zhou Wen's results must be real. With this companion beast, he's qualified to be in the top 10. Isn't Zhou Wen at the mortal stage? Can a mortal stage use a legendary companion beast? As the students were in a flurry of discussion, Wang Fei wore an odd look as well. What's going on with that demonized general? It has both fist and blade techniques. Is this another mutation of the mutated demonized general? Old Zhou, amazing. The mutated demonized general is truly powerful, Li Xuan said with a laugh. John's eyes narrowed as he stared at Zhou Wen and said slowly, Sunset College is indeed worthy of its reputation. I've underestimated you. I lost just now. You have the right to fight me. Do you dare fight me seriously in battle? TCH, I thought a saint from the West District would be impressive. So they are just people who can't afford to lose, Li Xuan curled his lips and said disdainfully. John, you've already lost, and Jing said coldly. John remained unmoved as he continued staring at Zhou Wen. Are you afraid of accepting the real challenge? You've already lost. I'm not interested in people who have been previously defeated, Zhou Wen said calmly before turning to leave. John's expression turned ugly as he clenched his fists tightly and stared intently at Zhou Wen's back. Do you dare to fight me with the Cape family's honor on the line as well as this rebellious knight companion egg? Those who had heard of the name Rebellious Knight were alarmed. Even Zhou Wen stopped in his tracks and turned to look at John. The rebellious knight you mentioned is the one that's strongest among the knights of the Round Table? Zhou Wen asked. That's right. The most powerful knight of the Round Table, Lancelot. If you can defeat me, you can have him. John took out a companion egg. The egg emitted resplendent holy light and the flawless shell that resembled jade had the marks of a sword and shield. Zhou Wen stared at the companion egg and was truly tempted. Lancelot was known as the strongest Round Table knight, but it was also because of his existence that it fractured the Knights of the Round Table and the legend of King Arthur. He was somewhat similar to a General Lu Bu in the history of East District. They were all tragedies that were a result of a woman and eventually ended a great legend. Besides other things, Lancelot was indeed an invincible Round Table knight of that era. If the rebellious knight really corresponded to Lancelot, then it was likely to be even stronger than the Holy Spear Knight that John had used. Zhou Wen didn't doubt the authenticity of the rebellious knight companion egg. The Cape family was one of the 6 League Heroes family clans, so for John to dare say such things about betting on the Cape's family's honor, there was no need to use a fake legendary companion egg to ruin the reputation of the family. Since you are betting with Rebellious Knight, I can give you a chance. However, victory and defeat require a clear definition. You can't just let me kill you here, can you? Zhou Wen spoke very seriously. When people heard this, they felt like Zhou Wen was looking down on John, as though he was saying that John would lose without a doubt and that he would go back on his word when he lost. John's eyes twitched a few times, but he suppressed the anger in his heart. He had paid a heavy price for underestimating Zhou Wen. Now, he needed to fight him again. He believed that it was easy for him to defeat him with his strength. A real battle wasn't as simple as relying on a powerful companion beast. John was confident that he could repress Zhou Wen and his companion beast. Taking a deep breath, he tried to calm himself down and maintain his usual composure. He took out a pen and drew a circle on his chest. It's your victory as long as you can touch this area, John said as he pointed at the circle on his chest. All right. Zhou Wen nodded, but he had no intention of drawing a circle on his chest. It was as though he was saying that he wouldn't lose. When John saw Zhou Wen acting in such a manner, he felt even more infuriated. However, it also matched his thoughts. He had no intention of easily defeating Zhou Wen. Not only did he want to defeat Zhou Wen, he also wanted Zhou Wen to pay the price for the matter regarding Liz. When Wang Fei heard that Zhou Wen had agreed to fight John again, she couldn't help but frown. Zhou Wen had defeated John by surprise with a powerful companion beast. He should have quit while he was ahead, but now he had been enticed by the companion egg and agreed to the battle. It was somewhat irrational. Feng Qian, in your opinion, what are the chances of Zhou Wen winning? Li Xuan asked Feng Qian. Although he was most familiar with Zhou Wen, he didn't know much about John. Furthermore, he was biased, so he couldn't make an accurate judgment. Feng Qian pondered for a moment before saying, Coach is indeed very strong. If both of them are at the legendary stage, I think that Coach will definitely win. But if Coach hasn't advanced to the legendary stage yet, it's hard to say. After all, they will be one level apart. As he spoke, John walked towards Zhou Wen. At the same time, a golden light condensed on him, transforming into a golden armor that enveloped his entire body. John clenched his right hand slightly as a gorgeous sword with embedded gems appeared in his hand. He was tall and handsome. With the gold armor and long sword as a foil for him, he looked mighty and domineering, like a legendary hero knight that saved the world. With John's footsteps, his entire body and sword emitted a strange glow. The light seemed to condense into something corporeal that could be seen with the naked eye. Is that the famous battle aura primordial energy art of the West District? Li Xuan and company widened their eyes as they looked at John. They had only seen battle aura in videos and teaching materials. This was the first time they had seen it with their own eyes. Battle aura primordial energy arts are rather common in the West District. It's somewhat different from our East District's primordial energy arts. It's not as converged as our primordial energy art. Typical battle aura arts are more domineering. Once one reaches the legendary stage, they will have the ability to release their battle aura, which has destructive power and is also slightly stronger than most of the East District's primordial energy arts, Wang Lu said. At this moment, John, who was less than 10 meters away from Zhou Wen, suddenly sped up. He leapt up and slashed at Zhou Wen with both hands wielding his sword. All the battle aura in him condensed on the sword and transformed into a sword beam that was several meters long. It instantly slashed at Zhou Wen's head. Article 148 of 1597. Chapter 148 Super Meat Shield. That strike was too fast and powerful. It was rare to see a sword beam several meters long in the East District. Although there were quite a number of primordial energy arts and primordial energy skills that allowed the projection of force in the East District, they were usually more converged, so there weren't any exaggerated effects. However, to be able to slash out a sword beam that was several meters long meant that John's strength was indeed extraordinary. Typically, the West District legendary cultivators who cultivated battle aura and similar primordial energy skills would only produce sword beams that were about a meter long. To have one spanning several meters was truly terrifying. This John didn't reveal his true strength when he was sparring with us. That strike was much stronger than what he previously demonstrated, Feng Qian said. Will old Zhou be alright? Li Xuan was alarmed when he saw the might of the strike. It wasn't only Li Xuan. Many of the spectating students were worried for Zhou Wen when they saw such an exaggerated strike, afraid that he would be split into two by the sword. The two counselors who were in charge of refereeing were already prepared to save Zhou Wen at moment's notice. Zhou Wen looked at the cleave without any intention of fighting. With a casual wave of his hand, a golden beam of light flashed as a ferocious-looking golden warrior appeared in front of him. The mighty golden warrior completely shielded Zhou Wen's body as it raised its palm to meet John's terrifying battle aura sword beam. Clang! An earth-shattering metallic clang sounded. The battle aura golden beam shattered like broken glass in the palm of the three-eyed warrior. The visual impact it dealt on the students made many of them crane their necks to see. John's sword cleaved onto the three-eyed golden warrior's palm, but it failed to proceed further with the huge palm in the way. Holy shit, three-eyed golden warrior. That guy actually had another three-eyed golden warrior drop. Li Xuan felt as if he was going mad. Zhou Wen had a three-eyed golden warrior drop not too long ago. Back then he gave it to Li Xuan and had said that he could get one to drop for himself if he needed it. Li Xuan had scoffed at it. The three-eyed golden warrior was so rare that people didn't usually encounter one in months. Even if one did, the chances of a companion egg dropping was pathetic. However, how long had it been? Zhou Wen had actually managed to produce another three-eyed diamond. It made Li Xuan suspect that Zhou Wen had reincarnated 10 times as a virgin. Otherwise, how could he have such good luck? The heavens had to be compensating him for the miseries in his past lives. Clang! 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 John unleashed a flurry of slashes with his long sword, but they were all blocked by the three-eyed golden warrior. Even if it directly hit the three-eyed golden warrior, it merely left a faint mark. The three-eyed golden warrior's golden body and invulnerable golden power made its physical defenses stand at the peak of the legendary stage. The only weakness was its third eye. Unless the third eye was hit, even Zhou Wen himself would find it difficult to injure it. Three-eyed golden warrior, mutated demonized general. Zhou Wen is just too enviable. Those are companion beasts that can't even be bought with money. Ignoring everything else, Zhou Wen's companion beasts are truly powerful, but he should have advanced to the legendary stage. Otherwise, how could he incubate such a powerful legendary companion beast? The heavens are unfair. Just give me one of the three-eyed golden warrior or mutated demonized general. That punk, John must be feeling depressed. After slashing so many times, he hasn't even managed to injure the three-eyed golden warrior. How can he fight Zhou Wen? The students discussed fervently, mostly envious of Zhou Wen for having two rare legendary companion beasts. John originally believed that with his powerful strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill the companion beast in front of him. He wanted to kill Zhou Wen's beloved companion beast just like Zhou Wen had killed Holy Spear Knight. He wanted Zhou Wen to experience what it felt like to lose a companion beast before dealing with him. But very quickly, John's expression turned extremely ugly. This was because he knew that even if he used all his strength, there was no way he could hurt the companion beast in front of him. It was a meat shield type companion beast with powerful defense. It would be meaningless if he continued fighting. It would only be a waste of his primordial energy. It was already too late by the time he realized this. His primordial energy at the legendary stage was limited and he had already expended most of it. Wang Fei looked at the three-eyed golden warrior standing in front of Zhou Wen in a daze. He had managed to have two such companion beasts, ones that might not even be purchasable with money, drop in such a short period of time. With her relationship with Ouyang Lan, she naturally knew that Zhou Wen hadn't accepted the Yin family's help. For him to obtain such a companion beast, it was definitely something he had obtained on his own. This fellow actually managed to kill mutated demonized generals and three-eyed golden warriors. He's probably no longer at the mortal stage, right? Wang Fei looked at Zhou Wen and suddenly felt infuriated. She had worked so hard to help Zhou Wen grow stronger, but who knew that Zhou Wen had already advanced to the legendary stage? To think she had been worried for him, afraid that he would lose too terribly. This punk just needs to be punished. I should intensify the level of his training in the future, Wang Fei thought viciously. While feeling indignant, Wang Fei felt somewhat excited. Before Zhou Wen entered Sunset College, he was definitely at the mortal stage. In just a short span of time, he had already advanced to the legendary stage. Furthermore, he had managed to kill such powerful legendary creatures in Tiger Cage Pass and the Myriad Buddha Cave. Such strength was worthy of the word genius. If he were to be properly trained in the future, she might really be able to produce a great cultivator. Sis Lan sure has sharp eyes. Zhou Wen's talent is indeed not bad and his luck isn't bad. If he can obtain a special physique in the Holy Land, he might really have the chance to step into the mythical stage in the future. Wang Fei felt her heart beat faster when she thought of the possibility of producing a mythical expert. Her cheeks flushed a little red from the rapid circulation of her blood. John had already stopped attacking. He wanted to retreat and recover his expended primordial energy before circling around the three-eyed golden warrior to attack Zhou Wen. He knew very well that such super meat shield type companion beasts weren't fast at all. With his speed and movement techniques, it wasn't difficult for him to circle around the three-eyed golden warrior. If he hadn't wanted to kill Zhou Wen's companion beast, he wouldn't have been placed in such a passive position. However, the moment he retreated, Zhou Wen, who had been standing behind the three-eyed golden warrior, suddenly moved. Like a ghost, he chased up to the retreating John and extended his palm to strike at his chest. John was alarmed and furious. Zhou Wen had grasped the perfect opportunity when he was retreating. His strength was receding and his center of gravity was shifted backward, making it impossible for him to counterattack. Article 149 of 1597. Chapter 149, The Might of a Flap. Light patterns on John's chest emerged and turned into a warrior raising a shield in front of him. Zhou Wen struck the tower shield with his palm, but only managed to make the warrior retreat half a step. John's expression was cold as his primordial energy churned. His hair flared up and he had a crown-shaped mark of light on his forehead. Zhou Wen was no stranger to this mark. It belonged to one of the 6 heroes, the Holy Emperor's hero mark, which also represented the Holy Emperor's special physique, the Holy Emperor body. John's current condition was a sign that the Holy Emperor body was being activated. Then, there was no need to guess what John would do next. Oh no, John is actually going to use Holy Light Judgment in a spar like this. And Jing's expression changed drastically, but it was too late to help. Others might not know how terrifying Holy Light Judgment was, but Jing had seen the terror of the Holy Light Judgment in the Yin family's database. Although John definitely couldn't reach the level of the Holy Emperor, a primordial energy skill like Holy Light Judgment was extremely terrifying. It was difficult for opponents of the same level to resist it. Indeed, John clasped his fingers together as he raised his arms and slashed at Zhou Wen. As he moved, a dazzling glow like the sun burst out from his tightly locked hands, transforming into a huge blade of light that slashed down. The blade of light was more than 20 meters long and it was extremely fast. It cleaved down at Zhou Wen like it was a manifestation of lightning, reaching him almost instantaneously. At that moment, John, who was emitting holy light, looked like a representative of God in the mortal world. He used the power of God to judge the guilty. Not good. The 2 counselors who were watching the scene phased away at the same time, hoping to save Zhou Wen before Holy Light Judgment landed. The spectating students stood up. This attack was too terrifying, one that was far beyond the typical legendary stage. If Zhou Wen couldn't withstand it, he would probably be killed by this strike. A cold look flashed in Zhou Wen's eyes, but he didn't have any intention of dodging. Instead, he advanced and extended his hand and beckoned. A small palm-sized fan that resembled jadeite appeared in his hand as he flapped it towards the approaching John, who seemed to be delivering God's punishment. Bam! Under the shocked looks of the crowd, the terrifying blade of light, the manifestation of holy light judgment, was shattered like glass in a hurricane. John's glowing body was sent flying by the fan and slammed into the tempered glass that lined the borders of the arena and shattered it. Instantly, the entire venue fell silent. Everyone stared wide-eyed at John, who was struggling to get up from amidst the glass shards. He was unable to get up even after repeated struggles. His body was still curled up as he shivered, like a creature that was about to freeze to death in an ice cellar. Bam! Joe Wen walked in front of John and stepped on his chest. He looked down at him and said coldly, "Do you want to do it again? I can give you another chance." John was furious and embarrassed. He had the reputation of being a saint in the West District and was known to be invincible among peers of the same stage. He had never suffered such humiliation in Covenant College. In his anger, anxiety, and embarrassment, together with the injuries caused by the Grand Yin wind, he spat out a mouthful of blood and passed out. The two counselors who had rushed in to rescue Joe Wen were taken aback, momentarily unable to recover from their shock. They had rushed in for a situation completely different from the outcome. It left them at a loss. "Counselors, I'll have to trouble you with the rest." Joe Wen didn't care if John was dead or alive as he took out the Round Table Knight companion egg from John's backpack and bowed slightly at the two counselors. "All right." One of the counselors finally snapped back to attention and quickly went up to check on John's injuries. After all, John was a descendant of the Cape family and he had inherited the physique of a hero. If he died at Sunset College, it would be a huge problem. Joe Wen wasn't fazed by this and left after taking the companion egg. What just happened? Damn, I didn't see clearly what was going on just now. Why was John, who was like a god descending to the mortal world, sent flying? I saw it. Joe Wen waved a green fan in his hand at John, sending his sword beam flying together with him. That John looks quite scary, but why is he so weak? He can't even withstand one strike. Joe Wen sure is terrifying when it comes to strength. Although he relied on the powers of his companion beasts, they are still a part of his strength. This Joe Wen's background is probably extraordinary. A typical family student wouldn't have so many powerful companion beasts even if they advanced to the legendary stage. After Joe Wen left, the students snapped to their senses and began discussing excitedly. The main topic was Joe Wen's companion beasts, and the most discussed topic was the companion beast which manifested as a green fan. Old Joe, you finally made a name for yourself. You sent St. John flying with a fan. It's simply exhilarating. What kind of companion beast is that fan of yours? It's really too powerful, Li Xuan said to Joe Wen excitedly as they walked to the dorm. He's just too weak. Joe Wen didn't answer Li Xuan's question. It wasn't easy to explain the banana fairy's origins, and Joe Wen didn't want to tax his brain to fabricate a story, much less deceive his friend. Li Xuan didn't ask further either as the two returned to the dorm. John's defeat at Sunset College had not only caused a stir at Sunset College but also caused a great stir in Covenant College. John, a formerly undefeated hero's successor, one who had the title of saint, had been beaten up by someone at Sunset College. Furthermore, the person wasn't the strongest student at Sunset College. The fact that he barely entered the top 10 rankings made it clearly unacceptable to them. For a moment, the discussion forums of Covenant College seemed to explode. Some people claimed that John was not fit to have the title of a saint, nor was he worthy of being the successor of Holy Emperor. People also said that John should work harder at his cultivation before defeating Joe Wen and reclaim his glory. Joe Wen wasn't aware of this, nor was he in the mood to care. He had just hatched the Rebellious Knight and was admiring his attributes. Rebellious Knight, Legendary. Legendary Life Providence, Fate Knight. Strength, 19. Speed, 19. Constitution, 19. Primordial Energy, 19. Talent Skill, Cross Sword, Everlasting Shield, Holy Steed Summoning, Holy Steed Battle Aura. Companion Form, none. It was a companion beast with 4 skills and all its stats reached overdrive at 19 points. It could be said to be an excellent grade existence among legendary companion beasts. Its attributes were even more impressive than the mutated demonized general. Article 150 of 1597. Chapter 150 Restriction City. Wang Fei hadn't been in a good mood recently. Apparently, she hadn't been in a good mood ever since she had Joe Wen as a student. Joe Wen's defeat of John had cheered her up for a period of time, but soon there was no more joy in her. She originally believed that Joe Wen would establish his confidence, stop giving up on himself, and become a hardworking student after defeating John. However, the truth was completely opposite to what she had imagined. Since Joe Wen had defeated John, he hadn't returned to the dimensional zones and just cooped himself in his dorm all day. According to Wang Fei's investigations, although she didn't know what he was doing in the dorm, Joe Wen's sunbathing every morning while holding his phone didn't escape her notice. He was clearly playing a game. Damn you, Joe Wen. You're like a donkey. Every time I whip you twice, you'll take 2 steps. If I don't whip you, you just stay there and roll around. Do you really think I can't do anything about you? The more Wang Fei thought about it, the angrier she became. She originally believed that Zhou Wen had finally snapped out of his doldrums, but to her surprise, he immediately returned to his original state after the crisis passed. It was like dousing Wang Fei's enthusiasm with cold water. Wang Fei was clearly not someone who could let matters pass. Therefore, she made it her mission to completely free Zhou Wen from the terrible habit of gaming. She wanted him to completely quit his online addiction. Of course, the reason Wang Fei was so adamant about it was that she didn't want Zhou Wen's talent to be wasted. He thinks he's impressive just because he defeated John? He is still far from invincible. Furthermore, he relied on his companion beasts, not his own abilities. With this in mind, Wang Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. She couldn't help but smile as she revealed a bizarre smile. She had another idea once again. It wasn't that Zhou Wen didn't deliberately go to Tiger Cage Pass. He was just too famous. Recently, whenever he went out, there were always students he didn't know coming up to talk to him. Zhou Wen couldn't ignore others when they came to greet him out of goodwill, but with so many students doing so, he had no time to focus on gaming. In addition, his demonized general and three-eyed golden warrior had already been revealed, so there was no need for him to pretend to head to the dimensional zones. He might as well stay in his dormitory to play games. Zhou Wen originally believed that he could game in peace, but the new homework mission that Wang Fei assigned washed his plans down the drain. Old Zhou, our counselor is treating us, ordinary students, as special admission students. The homework mission she assigned us is only given to those special admission students in past years, Li Xuan complained after seeing the homework mission. What kind of place is Restriction City? Zhou Wen asked as he looked at the information on the homework mission. Their new homework mission was to hunt 10 bronze beasts in Restriction City, but Zhou Wen had never heard of a dimensional zone known as Restriction City. Li Xuan said, Restriction City is one of the underground cities in Luang and is one of the few that's right at the bottom. It isn't considered dangerous, and there are quite a number of dimensional creatures at the mortal stage in there. The highest level ones are only legendary creatures. However, there's something very special about Restriction City. There's no way to use a companion beast there. It's impossible to summon them or use their companion form. In other words, we need to use our strength to kill 10 legendary creatures. Zhou Wen understood what Li Xuan meant. That's right. This mission has very high standards required of one's own strength. In the past, only special admission students received this mission. I never expected that this year, our class would actually be given such a homework mission. I'm afraid most of the students will fail. The students in our class must be wailing in despair now, Li Xuan said. Is this bronze beast very difficult to kill? Zhou Wen asked in puzzlement. Although most of the students were still at the mortal stage, the mission allowed for up to 4 people to complete the mission. With the collective strength of 4 students, killing a legendary creature wasn't too difficult unless they encountered a creature as powerful as a mutated demonized general. Most of the students had completed the previous mission of killing ordinary demonized generals. It's not easy to kill. According to the information, the various attributes of the bronze beasts are pretty good. They do not have any obvious weaknesses. Although they aren't considered strong among the legendary stage, they are extremely difficult to deal with. Under the circumstances of not being able to use a companion beast, it's still fine for us at the legendary stage, but it's probably very difficult for those mortal stage students to accomplish it, Li Xuan said with a smile. Let's go. Let's head to Restriction City. Zhou Wen suddenly stood up and pulled Li Xuan out. Why are you suddenly so pumped up? Aren't you gaming? Li Xuan was puzzled. Zhou Wen had never been so enthusiastic before. Zhou Wen said, since most of our students are unable to complete the homework mission, don't you think that they will spend money to buy my strategy if I can figure out a strategy? Zhou Wen said with lit eyes. Do you lack money? Li Xuan was rendered speechless. Yes. Zhou Wen nodded seriously. Why do you need money? How much do you need? Li Xuan asked again. I wish to invest in Huang Jie's game. I've previously chatted with him and the first round of investment requires $1 million for him to first create a simplified version. Development will continue when I have more money, Zhou Wen said. Are you crazy? What era are we in now? You actually want to invest in developing a game? Are you going to develop it for old people? Young people these days have more and more invested in dimensional zones. Apart from those old people who have never cultivated before, who else would be in the mood to play games? Li Xuan said. Me, Zhou Wen said with a smile. That's what depresses me. You game all day, so how are you this strong? Li Xuan was indeed depressed. On the surface, he appeared to be enjoying himself, but he cultivated hard in private. However, compared to Zhou Wen, his progress was clearly much slower. I game to become stronger, Zhou Wen said seriously. Fuck off. Stop pulling my leg. I won't fall for your trick. Li Xuan didn't raise the issue of money again. If Zhou Wen really needed it, he wouldn't mind helping him. $1 million wasn't a huge sum to him. However, Zhou Wen had indulged in the fantasy of investing in a game. Li Xuan felt that it was best if he wasn't an accomplice in this, so he didn't offer the money. Zhou Wen had no plans on borrowing money either. He wanted to earn money himself. Hence, Zhou Wen and Li Xuan went to Restriction City that was deep underground. Restriction City was in an ancient style. Legend had it that it was the capital city of a certain dynasty in ancient times. It was said to be related to East Joe, but Zhou Wen didn't know if it was real or fake. However, after entering Restriction City, he immediately felt as though the companion beasts on him had vanished. He no longer had any connection with them. However, Banana Fairy and Truth Listener were exceptions. Zhou Wen could still sense their existence and could still use his will to communicate with them. A mythical pet is indeed extraordinary. Zhou Wen was somewhat delighted. Article 151 of 1597.